So we finally made it. We talked about it. We promoted it. And we are here. So we have Jack underscore Zampolin, and Robert, which we've never really called him Robert. We just call him Highlander and make jokes about there only being one Highlander. But Rob is here as well. The guy who got us all into Cosmos and stacked in the Stacked Labs. So you don't know that background, Jack, but Rob really red pilled us all a long time ago, and now we've all been in love. So we are so thrilled you're here. Thank you for coming. The format here, pretty straightforward, and I want to go. What I always say about this show, Jack, and what we do is, I started doing this just out of hobby and passion, and I try to be the guy that isn't the tech guy, but is very much retail oriented. Right? Been in crypto for a few years, been on every chain, and people talk about Cosmos and they don't really get it. And they're like, wait, so they're all separate blocks. How does this stuff work? And so I'd love to kind of dive into this with you, a little bit about your background. If you wouldn't mind kind of onboarding everybody into this here, could you give an intro on yourself, your background for those who may not know you?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Jack Zampolin. I've been in cryptos full-time since about 2017. The first company I worked at was a company called Blockstack. They're definitely still around, Stacks. Go check it out. I was there starting in early 2017 and was employee number 9, helped them raise their round. And I joined Cosmos back in sort of early 2018. So I think it was like March 2018. Okay. And I've been working in Cosmos since then. Prior to working at Blockstack, I spent a couple of years working on enterprise database systems. Enterprise database systems look a lot like blockchains, funny enough. So it was a nice prep. And before that, I was a chef for a number of years.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. I have a finance degree in college, and I was going to go work on Wall Street, but I graduated in March 2009, and that was sort of the bottom of that market. So there were no Wall Street jobs, and I was like, "Fuck this! I'm going to go be a chef."
I love it.
When I started at Cosmos, I was a developer evangelist. And very quickly realized there was sort of like no one leading product there. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, I can rally these engineers and get them to ship this Cosmos Hub thing. And did that. And I've been this sort of Cosmos product guy since then. Worked on the Cosmos Hub, then the Cosmos SDK, and sort of getting adoption with companies like Akash, DVBN, Binance, Luna, all of the folks that you see sort of using the Cosmos SDK. Most of them picked it up during that period.
Beautiful.
And then after that was one of the lead developers on IBC, and helped bring that together. I wrote the first relayer implementation, and we did this huge incentivized testnet for IBC called Game of Zones. After that, went to go launch the Akash blockchain. Worked on that for about full-time for about 6 months, and I've also been the first investor there, so I've been working on the Akash stuff for a while.
Wow, that's
very similar to a lot of my cloud experience. Funny enough, Kubernetes, shocker, cloud. But then I started working with Zachy again on SOMM Finance, but it was called the Gravity Bridge back then. So I'd been sort of all around the Cosmos stack. I'm a developer at large, and sort of towards the middle of last year, I started organizing all of those various interests and pieces into my company, which is called Strangelove Ventures. That started with a collaboration with a friend when we started investing in crypto back in 2013, and has evolved over the years. We did some Bitcoin mining for a while. We were doing some user experience design consulting for a little while, and now we've got Strangelove, which is sort of validator business. We also do venture investments, and we have developers where we work with the projects that we invest in to help them get off the ground. So a lot of stuff.
No,
which one to dig into?
It's so funny, you say that, because as I've been learning more about the Interchain and Cosmos, or whichever you want to say, which I do want to talk about just naming for a bit here, but I got to saying this almost jokingly to people in Stacked Labs or otherwise, being like, I just feel like Jack and Zachy and those guys are kind of like the Godfathers. Like if you were talking about like heads of families in like the Italian mafia, like these guys are like, they're in a piece of everything. You're like, I swear to God, I see your name on every project I look into. And I'm like, all right, Jack was helping out on that one too. That's pretty wild. Like it's very, very cool. to see that. And like that, your background explains exactly why that would be, right?
Yeah, that sort of like developer evangelism, that was kind of the skill set that I built when I first got into tech. Because prior to getting into tech, like I had done sales jobs and I could sell things.
Sure.
And when I started doing database programming, I was like, this is really cool. And I was like, okay, there's this job for me if I can explain this complex stuff that these really smart data scientists and engineers do to, people who need to use it but might not understand how it works. If I can bridge that gap, there's this huge job for me there. And that's a lot of what I've done in tech.
I
And
love it.
when I work in blockchain now, it's like all of the great work that Bucky and all of the sort of research scientists and folks like that do. It's my job to take that and make it much more accessible to a wider group. And that kind of naturally makes me this person that people reach out to when they want to get things done in Cosmos, because I can route them to the right people. And yeah, it's been really, really fun. And it's a great community of people here.
You're like the guy who knows a guy always. If you're not the guy yourself, I love it. That's filling that
Yeah.
middle void. And I'd be remiss, Rob. Obviously, you're here. Love to get the people an intro too. We got a ton of people watching, so I will explain. I will intro Rob as this. He and I met a long, long time ago, and we've beating down my door in the summer about Adam Cosmos. You got to get in. You got to look, because he knows I research everything. He actually called me on the golf course to say, look, I need to tell you about this. Took some time off, let a few people play through, and he just like red pilled me hard. So that's how I'll introduce Rob. But Rob, how did you get in all this? Tell people about your background too, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I made you fluff the shot into the wall.
I actually did. Yeah.
Yeah, so Medium articles reading up on staking and running a validator always kind of intrigued me. And gosh, it was tough going because I come from no coding background, and it was really difficult to learn Linux commands and all the basics. But as Jack mentioned, the community is just unbelievable at Cosmos. There's people there who just want to help you out and inspire you, like Jack for one of them, and Zachy and Bucky and all the rest of them. Like, so it's nice to have them on board and actually introduce you to someone who really knows the tech stack.
Don't sell yourself short here. Yeah. By the way, Highlander, I'm getting feedback from people that they can't really hear you as much. I don't know if you're sitting back or whatever it is, but if you could
start up a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. I just, you got great things to say. Plus, you got that beautiful Scottish accent, which always makes me want to grab a glass.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Maybe whip out some scotch while we're here. I should have done that. Really.
Can people hear me now?
A little bit better. So I can see your sound levels. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you're perfect there. Right, and so you read into it, you learned about it, wanted to get involved, started meeting these people, kind of fell in love, and that led to you being a validator, and obviously you're in JUNO and a bunch of other chains as well, which got us all into it. So talk about that a little bit.
JUNO was like the first sort of chance to run a mainnet validator, but the likes of SG1 helped me along the way, and all the core devs at JUNO certainly done a great job in bringing it all out, and it's just amazing what JUNO said. And actually, I've packed in my real job now. The one that I was doing is sound engineering touring the world. And
good.
I've finished it. I just made the phone call. Today I got a phone call asking if I wanted to go into Paul Weller, and I've just turned it down because I thought I'm going to dedicate it to this now for the next God knows how long, but
hopefully ever.
I'll take it serious enough, So.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's a conversation about how loud I am or how soft you are. They're like, Jared's always damn loud and Rob's low. So it's probably more me just being a loud individual. But again, just keep that in mind, Rob, as we go here. So I appreciate that intro, and wonderful to have you both here. Because like I said, I would not be here and be as big of a Interchain maxi as I am without Rob. So obviously a big part of all this here. And then obviously I'll continue referring to you as one of the godfathers of the Interchain. Just for fun, Jack.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I won't say no to that.
Godfather of the Interchain. So let's kind of hop into it a little bit. I don't really have a huge format here, but I wanted to kind of start high and drill down. So you have Strangelove, you have SOMM, but like let's pull back a little bit about IBC, where things are going, and the unbelievable adoption over the past 3 months, I would say. I don't know, maybe you can probably talk about that more, but it's been crazy. What do you think has been the reason why we've gotten there? And then I'll add a sub question to that. I heard you say you think we 10x in IBC transactions in the next 3 to 6 months. And how do we get there too? So I gave you a 2-layered question there, but talk about that.
So yeah, I think that in terms of how we got there, we need to go back to 2017
Sure.
and sort of talk about the environment that Cosmos came out of. I think the Cosmos white paper was originally authored in 2016. So even before that previous run up, the sort of ideas and the thesis behind Cosmos came out. And I think it's important to sort of talk about those in opposition to what has been the dominant narrative in blockchain for a very long time, which is that there is going to be one blockchain that ends up taking all of the transaction volume and all of the value capture, and everything else is just going to be applications built on top. And this has never been true, but investors keep thinking it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And we get proved wrong over and over again. I think the Ethereum community still believes this. They still think that ETH is the one base layer to rule them all.
That's right.
All applications will be built on top of that ETH base layer, and everything will be roll-ups into Ethereum. Now, I bought Ethereum back in 2016, I think. I've got the Coinbase receipts. I think I got it for like $5 or $6.
Insane.
And I ended up selling it for about the same because I played with Solidity. I looked at the tech stack and I was like, this isn't going to work. And, while it would have been great for me to do that, I've ended up sort of betting my career on that idea that this idea of one blockchain to rule them all is not going to be how blockchains scale. We saw blockchains scale by creating new blockchains starting in 2011, because Bitcoin has had this issue forever. Right. Dogecoin and the coins that came out in that 2011 run up, those are all new blockchains. And we saw it again in 2017. What changed there was Ethereum was able to create coins on top of Ethereum, and that obviously led to the ICO boom. Right. But a lot of the innovation there was new blockchains. And the Cosmos thesis has always been, okay, so there's not going to be one chain to rule them all. And if we take ourselves out of that mindset, what's the most important thing to build next? And we said, well, let's make it look like the internet. So instead of each computer being the sort of individual unit, it's each blockchain. Sure. And then we create connections between the blockchains and allow them to send data back and forth. And I think at its most basic, that's kind of fundamentally the Cosmos thesis.
Sure.
So before we dive into the how do we get to transactions, I just want to pause there and because I think even today, I still have conversations with people like my friends that aren't in blockchain, other people from other ecosystems, and this concept is kind of tough for them because you talk to people from the Polkadot ecosystem and they think Polkadot is going to be the one base layer to rule them all. You talk to people from Near, they think Near is going to be the one base layer. And so on. And Avalanche is the same thing these days.
Do you mind, since you brought it up, I'm going to pull this up. You can look on Twitch and see what it is. But I just transitioned our screen because I found this pretty funny, and it's 100% true. It's relevant to what we talked about. So I didn't mean to put your tweets out here, but I was like, oh my God, that's exactly.
Oh, no, thank you. I appreciate that. One of my favorite ones recently.
So you don't have to say it, but essentially, Emin said something about bridges and chains, and Jack quote retweeted him. Yes, the IBC thesis, exactly what you're talking about. And he came back kind of butthurt about it. All due respect, man, I'm on Avalanche. I still have a lot of money on Avalanche, but it was pretty interesting to see him be like, no, that's not it.
I mean, Avalanche is great tech. If you followed Emin for any length of time, you know that he's fairly combative on Twitter. Not surprised by this. But it's just really cool to see everyone coming around to the thesis that we've been building towards for the last 5 years. So that's kind of the way I feel about it.
Very, very funny. I had to do that since you were talking about it, because you're right. That's exactly what's sort of been happening is people are kind of coming around to it, but you're like, yeah, hey, we've been here. Just So I didn't mean to interject there. So anyway, you saw other chains doing all those kind of things, and that's kind of leading to where we are now. Because when I first heard about Cosmos from Rob, and again, I knew about it, but I didn't really hop into the Interchain at all. I started going wait, what do you mean they're separate app chains within one universe? And then it started to make a lot of sense. So I knew about it, but that wasn't necessarily the boom we've had. So was it the IBC officially rolling out and people going, yes, this is it, let's get involved? Or what do you think's led to the boom recently?
What do I think's led to the boom recently? Well, we starting with Osmosis, we have actual applications that people can use. And for a long time, what we built was open source software that enabled people to create exchange chains.
Yeah.
And what we saw was Binance took that and made billions. DAO and the Terra people took that and made billions. OKX took it and made billions. Crypto.com runs they've got their name on a stadium. So like that was the first value we created. And then when we started creating this, like all of that ended up on chain, but without IBC, it had no way to interoperate and sort of communicate with each other. So each of these things was an island. And once we shipped IBC, it's been this slow build, but the work that we did to like get all these other chains involved ensured that this sort of revolution that we're seeing would end up taking place. And as soon as osmosis, which was kind of the missing piece in that, i.e. a way for users to do the most basic crypto thing, which is trade one crypto for another, the experience that I found on Shapeshift that was like a huge aha moment for me back in 2013. As soon as users had the ability to do that, we saw this interchain traffic start taking off. And you know, what we're seeing now is an increasing number of chains being brought in, some of those chains with more and more usage. We're just about to turn the switch on the whole Ethereum ecosystem with the numerous different Gravity Bridge implementations that exist. We're going to see a flood of new applications with EVMOS. And, you know, it's kind of this n-squared thing where there's like, you know, a number of people in the network and the number of interactions between them is the square of the amount of people in there. Like we're just seeing more and more people in value in this network and more interactions between them. And that's just going to lead to sort of hockey sticking growth, which is what we're seeing.
Yeah. And it's been so unbelievably impressive. Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Sorry, JP. That was one of my, while you're on the subject, one of my questions regards to what bridge you might be using in terms of bringing ETH onto Cosmos. The other thing is,
I don't want to get into the Gravity Bridge drama.
Not that specifically, not that part specifically.
I'm struggling to understand, maybe if you could tell the viewers in a simpler way, what happens with IBC when Ethereum, say, comes from Sif chain onto a Cosmos chain, and when GravityDex maybe brings in another Ethereum style coin, you know, is it going to be under the one name, or, you know, what way are you guys kind of looking to kind of sort out the IDs of it?
Yeah, this is a really hard problem with the interchain stuff, and pretty much every bridging solution and every ecosystem kind of has a similar issue. So, you know, whether it's Avalanche, there's a couple of different bridges between Ethereum and Avalanche. The tokens that travel across the bridge are marked as having traveled across that bridge. And this is good because the trust assumption that you're making is that that particular bridge will hold, and that there won't be any sort of depeg or hack, and that your tokens are sort of wedded to the path that they traveled to get where they are. And that is very similar in IBC. So it's different when they travel over a different bridge or a different path to get somewhere. Those are different tokens. You know, you could unwind them and then walk them back through a different bridge, and then they become the same tokens again. But they, like, at any given moment in time, the path that a token has traveled across the interchain is determinative of sort of like which type of token it is. And that encodes the trust, which is like when you use the bridge from Ethereum to Avalanche, for example, you're trusting both that Ethereum isn't going to go away and that Avalanche isn't going to go away, as well as that the contracts
like that. Yeah, interesting.
It is. And once you start thinking about it like that, you're like, oh, this is a huge problem. Like, this is this massive engineering challenge that we as a community need to solve. And when we're talking about, you know, 10xing, and what I you know, 10xing is cool, but 100xing is really cool.
Right.
And when we 100 or 1000x the number of people that are using IBC, that's when we get to this sort of like global penetration and replacing the existing banking system. And that's where, you know, my head, and I think folks who are deep in crypto, that's where their heads are at too. This is a huge problem to solve. And I think that because of IBC, Cosmos has been exposed to this at scale first out of any of the other ecosystems. And I think that we, as well as the other sort of folks that make up the Cosmos Hub, have the best chance to solve a lot of these really thorny and complex technical issues that are related to trust in routing around the interchain. And there's a number of things that I'm working on with the Cosmos Hub to try to help solve that.
about exchanges when is my mic better now, James?
Yeah, no, it is showing up better. I'm just getting messages from people like, "Hey, can't hear Rob." So yeah, I know it's nighttime where you are. You got kids who are sleeping, but as best you can.
The engineer can't fix his own.
Sweet irony. Sweet irony.
Right. So yeah. So when you look at centralized exchanges, when they bridge in, you know, if you send Ethereum from one chain to right into a centralized exchange, you know, is it just a big massive pool of ETH? Because it's all labeled ETH, but it's came from all different chains. Is this sort of like the way you might be trying to do it on Cosmos, or in terms of the naming? I don't know.
Yeah, what they do on the back end is they make it refungible, is one way to say it. So if you've got two different bridge representations, you can say these things are basically the same. You guys, right? They're pretty much the same, and we're just going to call them the same thing. But what we're going to do on the back end is do these redemptions and make them literally all the same thing ourselves. Right. We'll take care of all of that complexity for you. Okay. Now, you know, in Cosmos, because there's no central counterparty, we can't necessarily do that. So I think that there's a number of ways where this is going to get fixed. So one, on Osmosis, I think one of the things that they're going to do is implement StableSwap. So if you guys are familiar with Curve, yep, or any of these other sort of stablecoin swapping things where you have two assets that are very similar in price and you're trying to swap them, there's some special decentralized exchange technology you can use to make slippage a lot lower, require a lot less liquidity to serve the same amount of trades, stuff like that. So StableSwap is a perfect fit for these assets. So if you have, ETH that came over UMI, ETH that came over the Gravity Bridge, you would put that in a StableSwap pool, and the sort of StableSwap pool share would then become this kind of synthetic Ethereum that stands for all of the bridged Ethereum.
Yeah,
that's one potential way to solve this. Okay. Another one is from the client side, you could intelligently detect which assets a user has, and then with the click of a single button, do all of the transactions to unwind them and put them into a single representation for that user. That requires a little bit more sort of like things like service discovery and, you know, a bit of a better understanding of the different routes that go through the interchain. That is being worked on broadly within the Cosmos ecosystem. Doing that automatically, I think, will require some on-chain registration of some of that data and something like a chain naming service, and then the sort of automated relayer network to do that work for you. I think that's a longer-term solution. Over the even longer term, this gets to sort of the mechanics of bridges. Right now, bridges have, it's like these tokens from this person to this person. That's the data that's traveling over these bridges. If we think about this in the internet analogy, and we go back to what was the first internet protocol, it was email.
Right.
So token transfer is kind of like the email of the internet. And email had all these technical issues that we've sort of had to hack around for a while, and we continue to build on top of email and sort of make it better. But what replaced email was different data formats traveling over this internet thing that we built. And in the same way, we can build different data formats to travel over the interchain. And those will, you know, within, I think, 48 to 72 months, so 2 to 3 years, we'll see most of the interchain traffic transition over to sort of data. And then that data will represent claims on assets on other chains that are then refungible, that then enable different use cases. Or, you know, you will lock your assets up on one chain, those will get split up into a number of claims, spread out into DeFi protocols across the interchain, and then automatically managed for you. But we need to walk before we can run, and right, the first protocol is this token transfer protocol. So we're stuck with this sort of like bridge representation war that's going on right now. That is not the end state of the interchain.
Yeah.
That was
amazing. Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, it really was. I never really thought about it from that perspective. That's a lot of shit to coordinate, and a lot of stuff. And like part of being open and allowing anybody to do it is, and that's just more variables to like, you know, look into. So the StableSwap idea and the ETH, I really, really like that, and hopefully we continue to see it. And I put this up here as you guys were talking because it was kind of relevant. I liked it. I bookmark stuff that you guys talk about all the time just for myself.
Yeah.
And essentially, you know, Federico's saying about, you know, why are you blocking, blah, blah, blah. We kind of just talked about that. But what I like as much as anything, and this is going to lead into another place that I'm going, is, you know, Sonny's saying we're talking about UX, which to me as a normie, as somebody who, you know, like I need stuff to look simple, to be able to explain to other people simply. I really do appreciate, which I know is not necessarily the easiest thing done. And I think you kind of went to that because your quote here, UX is massively underappreciated skill in crypto. One of the main things that set everybody apart, and obviously Strangelove being a big part of that too. So very impressive that is the emphasis. And then, all right, what do you got there? Tell me that first.
I have a bunch of books about user experience. This is like when I first got into tech, this is what I read. It is, I think, some of the most fundamental reading that I think anyone getting into tech can do. Read about user experience.
Yeah. There's
a lot of people who put a ton of work into human-computer interaction. And I think one of the things that we do in crypto the worst is we ignore a lot of prior art from other industries.
Yeah.
Because this is such a new space, it's really easy for people to say, well, this is a new thing. We can ignore what happened before us. But I think that in order to take this next step and to get past this sort of like early adopter, early majority phase that we're in, and get to the sort of late adopter, late majority phase, like we really need to take a massive step up in user experience. That's one of the things that I love about Osmosis. It's one of the things that I love about what Cosmos enables. And I just think it's fantastic that we're actually having that conversation now, because for years, no one wanted to have that conversation.
Yeah, no doubt. And going right along with this, because this is actually flowing beautifully. And I have one last tweet, screen grab, but it's not even yours. It's from Wolf, from JUNO. Essentially today, it's telling Binance, Huobi, and KuCoin to fuck off. And I love that because essentially if you're catering to sex, then people don't adapt DEX, right? Like if you're trying to, all right, you don't have to worry about this. You don't have to try. Like, no, if you want to come be a part of this, come be a part of this. And obviously I left the part in there where you liked it and talked about it too. But yeah, like it's such this massive thing. And I like that it's actually a conversation within Cosmos where I don't even hear it. Like the first time I looked at curve.fi, I was like, what the fuck? Like as somebody who doesn't know natively what's going on there, to try to dig in and go, what am I doing here? Or interacting with a contract when something was stuck. Hey, you can't do it because the UI is off. You have to go learn how to interact with the contract directly. What? If that's what we're still asking people to do, that's a barrier, wouldn't you say?
It's a massive barrier. We're never going to get there. We need to make it so that people can use this on their mobile phones.
That's right.
You know, and like Kepler on mobile is launched. Like, I think that the state of crypto on mobile is kind of rough right now. This sort of, you know, I've been saying this for a long time, and I'm not the only one who says it. Key management and the understanding of how private keys work is the biggest barrier to adoption in crypto, period.
No doubt.
And, you know, these user experience challenges on the front end and things around latency, like we've had to tackle those first, but helping people understand how their funds are actually secured and what the cryptography does and how to make it work for you is really hard.
Yeah.
I have this story I've told a number of times, but I do just love telling it. I got my mom a ledger for her birthday back in 2019 after the hub launch, and I gave her some atoms. And she wears an Apple Watch, and I'm sitting there with her setting up her mnemonic, and her Apple Watch heart rate monitor keeps going off. And it's like, this is scary for people.
Right.
It's really scary for people. And anyone I've ever done this with finds it like scary and intimidating. And like, I do these ledgers all the time, and I'm still like, did I fuck this up?
I know.
Let me double check this. Let me make sure this mnemonic is right. Let me make sure I wrote it down correctly. And, you know, there's a lot of ways to automate a lot of this, and we're still just not there yet. You know, there's a lot of work to be done on that user experience front. But, you know, specifically to this Wolf contract thing you have up there, and like Massey's fantastic. Like I love him. Like we've been working together since Prop 34 on the hub. He's taking the exact same approach with JUNO that we took at Cosmos, which is if you want to integrate us. We'll provide you tech support, but like we're not paying any listing fees. We're not jumping through any hoops. Like we're out here. It's an open network. We're not going to prevent anyone from doing anything. And, you know, I think JUNO's gotten plenty of support from the broader Cosmos community and shown that we don't really need these centralized exchanges anymore, which is huge.
Absolutely. And the other thing that I would say, just going right along with this, I'm surprised to see the inclusivity and, you know, like, oh, there's JUNO swap, there's OSMO, there's, you know, SIF, whatever you want to do. And it never really feels like there's any, you know, we all get better by working together and helping each other get there, because yeah, there's some competitiveness there, sure. But really, really special in my opinion that everybody kind of says, yeah, let's all do this and find the best way to help each other and grow as one, which I'm not going to say it hasn't been the case in other chains that I've been on, but like, you don't get that feel when you're on Binance Smart Chain or Avalanche or other things like that. Like,
no,
don't. It's
mercenary.
It's mercenary, which is very, very cool to see. Okay, I didn't even know what's going on in the chat there, but yeah, if you're looking for apparently work, you know, you holler at Jack here a little bit.
Yeah, I'm hiring front end engineers, back end engineers, validators, and user experience people.
I love
Hit
it.
me up.
I love it. So that kind of, you were talking about, you know, security and UX and getting people to do this, not be nervous. And by the way, I have a story I've shared. I'm not going to share it now because I'll take up too much time, but I was actually hacked. I was phished for almost seven figures. And it was right after I'd got, and it was me being stupid, and I thought I was better, right? And I messed up massively. I'm not going to get into it now, but it's such a huge deal because the worst nightmare came through for me. And talking to the FBI, trying to get your money back, which you know you never will. You know, but it's like, that's not fun, and it's a horrible thing. And it was just me being stupid. It was 100% my fault, guys. 100% my fault. But we need to make it almost better, easier to not have that stuff happen, right?
Yeah, Jared, it's great that you say that. One of the things that Zachy, who's been my mentor for a long time in the Cosmos world, always says is security needs to work when you're drunk, when you're stoned, when you're tired, when you haven't slept for weeks. And like, that is when security needs to work.
Yes.
And like, you know, that is exactly what you're talking about right there.
Mine was a hot wallet at 3 a.m., man. It was a hot wallet at 3 a.m. that I left.
That's when it happened.
Fished, and it was done. And I was like, oh my God, I woke up and my entire account was essentially gone. So anyway, that's the too long didn't read. I made it past it. I didn't quit. I'm still here, right? So security obviously leading to that. Yeah, 10x is nice. 100x is nicer. And I want to bring it up, and we talked about it a little bit before we came on air. The IBC DAO and the bones, because I make the joke about you being the godfather of the Interchain with many other people to do that. But now that I'm seeing the adoption, I'm starting to think everybody says, because even like when Vitalik was on up only, the internet of blockchain sounds interesting, but they're still going to run into capacity issues just like us. Right. So talk to me about that and like what happens when we get the adoption that we think will happen, which I firmly do, having now operated on every damn thing that's been existed. Where do we go from here and how do we get there? What's the IBC DAO, so on and so forth?
Yeah. So, you know, the IBC DAO, and there's been quite a bit of sort of internal discussion about that. Basically, it's an effort to put together a fund of money to fund core development for all of the software that all of these different Cosmos chains rely on, funded by broadly the ecosystem. So we're going to every Cosmos chain that you see on Map of Zones and saying, hey, can we get you guys to contribute to this core development fund? We need to drastically increase the amount of folks working on this so that we can fix performance issues all throughout the stack and push additional features that all of these chains require. We're close to making an announcement on that. I think that we'll probably push an announcement before end of month on this.
Nice. Stay tuned.
But we've got an all-star cast of folks from all of the core Cosmos development teams from all of the chains that are the sort of top on Map of Zones involved here, and we're pushing forward with that. I think that there's kind of a number of ways to do this. We could have just sort of gone out there and pushed up governance proposals, and we were planning to do that. What I have found most effective in decentralized governance is to get the decision makers and the folks who are most invested in these systems behind these types of things, and then come out and speak with a unified voice. And what we're preparing to do is speak as a unified Cosmos and say, we need to fund these activities. We need to fund an increase in the amount of development effort going towards them, and it's going to fund that. But the funding is only one piece of it, and the technical solutions and the clever work that's being done to sort of expand the relay network is a huge piece of it. Robert at Highlander Nodes has been a big part of that, and he's seen firsthand this community that we're building around relaying and scaling this interchain thing. And the work that they've done on Cosmos performance is incredible. The relayer community has done more work on Cosmos performance over the last 6 months than we've ever done as a core development team, period.
No one even knows about it, the work they do. It's, I guarantee anybody in that chat, Jared, don't even know who's running relay operations, and it's very, very integral, sorry.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see, and again, thank you all for putting that in to make that happen. That's pretty wild. So you said something that triggered to me because something that's been top of mind for me lately, and this is my last question, and then I want to dig into SOMM if you wouldn't mind, and Strange Love and what you guys are doing. So last question I have is somewhat JUNO centric, because you talked about like an interchain DAO. Isn't that what DAODAO is supposed to be? And like the CosmWasm, CW20 contracts and what's going on there? Like, would that be an example of a CW of a DAODAO, like this interchain DAO?
Yeah. I mean, I want to use DAODAO. When I saw DAODAO, that was when I came up with the idea. I was like, this is incredible. And Jake Hartnell is an amazing developer. And, I've known Jake for a while, but when I saw the DAODAO work, I was like, we got to put this thing together. Like, we got to use this for good. Cause like, wow, what an incredible piece of software.
It's so powerful.
It really is. People don't even know.
No. And like for people, I mean, we don't have enough time here because I don't want to run too short, and Jack has a hard stop at the top of the hour, but interchain DAO in a system that is this community centric is a big effing deal, guys. Big effing deal. And last point on that, a lot of people don't know what CosmWasm is, what CosmWasm can be. Is that intended to eventually be something where like, look, this will feel like Ethereum, but it's not, it just is helping you move between them? Like, talk to me about CosmWasm a little bit, if you wouldn't mind.
This gets a little technical here. It is like Ethereum. It is a VM, the same way that you can upload programs on Ethereum using Solidity. You can upload programs on CosmWasm using any language that compiles to WASM. There's, EVMOS, which is the sort of Solidity version of this.
Yeah.
And then we also have the folks over at Agoric working on a JavaScript-specific smart contracting language. One of the things that sort of differentiates CosmWasm versus a lot of these other VM languages is that we looked at the sort of mistakes that Ethereum had made around things like contract reentrancy, contract ownership, the ability to do contract upgrades, and baked in solutions to those problems at a very low level in CosmWasm. And another thing that's baked in at a very low level in CosmWasm is this understanding and ability to use IBC. So right now, I think you can do it. It's just not very well documented. You can take a CosmWasm contract on one chain and connect it via IBC with a CosmWasm contract on another chain and send tokens directly between them. And when I was talking earlier about sending just data over IBC, you can imagine a really complex multi-chain application that dynamically shifts liquidity around based on demand on each of these chains solely via a proprietary data format using IBC, which is like, all of these Ethereum applications are like, we're going multi-chain and it's hugely painful. It's like, we already thought of that, and like, it's not going to be that bad. So yeah, like, what is CosmWasm? It's just a better EVM in some ways. And, it's going to compete head to head with the actual EVM in Cosmos, as well as other smart contracting platforms.
That's nuts. I just got like, my brain exploded when you just said that about the ability to move liquidity like that. And oh my God. Because all right. I don't want to talk about that because I'll go on. So
I'm happy to come back and like dig into a bunch of this stuff, because cross-chain smart contracts is like, the first time I thought about it, I was like, fucking really? Like, really?
Yeah.
I was like, Jesus, that's going to be incredibly powerful. And like, the more and more we see these things actually deployed across many chains, the problems that those protocols have and the inability to share liquidity. And then we see things like Osmosis come out where they're like, instead of deploying to a number of chains, we're only going to have one chain and all the liquidity is going to come to us.
Right.
what is going to end up happening is a mix of those two things. And this sort of piece where this automated liquidity inter protocol,
Sure.
like inside the protocol liquidity management happens across many chains. Like that's still kind of experimental, but like as soon as that's enabled, it's going to be, the first use cases are going to be mind blowing for people.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, literally, my question list is not getting smaller; it's getting larger. So, yeah, we're gonna have to have you come back again at some point here.
Yeah, for sure.
So without short selling it, the things I didn't get to, liquid staking, shared staking, all sounds pretty bananas.
It's cool. Yeah, it's great.
I mean, yeah, there's so many. Oh God! All right, so let's talk about SOMM. Let's talk about what's going on, because the co-processor of Ethereum, I honestly haven't used it a ton. I've messed around with it, connected my wallets just to mess around on Ethereum from an LP perspective. I found it very interesting. Quite frankly, I don't transact on Ethereum much at all anymore.
Yeah,
but very wild. So talk about SOMM a little bit, and what has happened recently, the bridges that are coming out, what you guys are doing, how Strangelove and you were involved, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. So Strangelove is SOMM is a decentralized protocol. We're made up of a number of different companies. Strangelove is one of the founding companies of Sommelier. So, this idea of like interchain smart contracts and that sort of like automated liquidity management, that is very much what we're working on at SOMM. So, you can imagine having a vault over on Ethereum that intelligently switches you between the highest yielding stable coins on Aave.
Sure.
And as those yields change, the vault dynamically moves you. Now, in order to do that on Ethereum right now, you would need some sort of centralized counterparty, someone with a hot key on a server somewhere that is doing that management. Now, that obviously runs into a ton of securities issues.
Yes.
We talked about security and key issues earlier on the channel. Like, I think those things make me really afraid to use a lot of these automated management things on ETH. Now, what Sommelier is saying is, okay, instead of one key, why don't we make this a validator set? Why don't we make a network that has rules that manage these, that manage liquidity on other chains? And that's what Sommelier does.
So
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
So going. As to where we are, we've been working, we had to build the gravity bridge to make this happen. So we've been working very closely with all the teams building the gravity bridge for the last year. We had to build full integration tests and have developers that understand both Cosmos and Ethereum. Really hard. It's taken a long time to sort of get up to the level where we can actually deploy this thing. So what we have right now is a live gravity bridge that does these cross-chain contract calls for us. And we're in the midst of getting up to deploy that exact use case that I talked about. We think that Aave, that sort of automated management Aave seller is a low risk way to get stablecoin yield, and we'll be able to get a lot of people using that. So that's going to be our first use case. But after that, we're going to be launching a ton of these different vaults of various different risk profiles from various different publishers, all managed through the Sommelier chain in this sort of trustless, really originally crypto way, where there's no counterparties, there's no one person with a key somewhere who can rug you. And that is what we're building at SOMM.
Wow.
Jack, Uni V3, I liked it. I liked how you can just point where you want your liquidity to, earn you some yield. Do you think you'll ever go towards osmosis with such a thing? I know osmosis is just...
Yes.
That's the answer.
Yes. It's really funny. We've been working for a long time to build this into Ethereum. So we built all the tools to do that first. And this sort of cross-chain programmability in Cosmos is actually kind of a little harder because we've had to build a couple of fundamental protocols. One of them is interchain accounts, which is in the process of being shipped. That's the ability for one chain to send transactions on another chain. And then the sort of missing piece of that, if we think of databases give you both read and write. We need the ability to read state on other chains. So I'm working with two different dev teams right now to build that out. But once we have the ability to send transactions and read state from other chains, we will be able to ship automated liquidity management over on Osmosis. So that would switch you in and out of a variety of different sellers based on rules set by the SOMM validators.
Man, there's so much interchain and stuff to get, you know, picked up knowledge on. There's so much going on. The world needs to know about this. Big time.
We got to get the alpha first, right?
That's right. That's right. And we all get it. I mean, we're doing our little part here. I got people commenting, look at Jared's eyes, bullish. Like, you know, my brain goes, okay, this sounds like a better version of YFI Aave that is more secure, that can take advantage of an ecosystem that currently has how many chains that are attached to IBC? IBC enabled 40-ish right now?
40-ish, something like that. I've lost track.
I think I heard somewhere that like the projections for end of year is like 200 on where it could be by the end of the year. So you're talking about a vault-based system that could maximize your return on 200 app chains?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're building. Like, Zaki and I saw this opportunity a long time ago. And like, you know, the way that the Yearn team has managed this risk is they've gone anon and they've devolved power as much as they can. And, you know, that fragments liquidity, that fragments effort, that makes user experience much harder. And I think that, you know, the Yearn team is incredible. And building that sort of like first yield aggregator protocol is like, that was a fundamental innovation in crypto. No one had ever seen anything like that. Productionizing that and being able to bring that to 100x to 1000x the amount of people, to bring that to the average retail investor and to really democratize this type of activity for the average user, that's going to take a huge quantum step up in user experience. It's going to include better security, better auditability of the underlying contracts, better understanding of who actually controls these things. And, you know, that, I think we've got blockchains to do that kind of coordination, and that's what the SOMM chain's for.
Right.
Do you think there'll ever be a mix between centralized and decentralized, and also like maybe banks getting involved, where banks have got loads of customers? I think we need to go down, or we need to at least think about this. You know, you're not going to get, as you well said, your gran struggling to use a ledger and stuff. These people use banks for a reason. I think maybe we need to go down that road.
Yeah, I think we're already going down that road. And, you know, Binance is a great example of that, as is Coinbase. Those are great examples of centralized crypto banks that allow users to kind of do all this stuff. You know, that's not why I got into crypto. Why I got into crypto is it gives us the promise of, as individuals, being able to manage this stuff and not rely on these overly powerful intermediaries that can say, like, shut our bank accounts off and prevent us from, like, buying food. Which is what they're doing to those truckers up in Canada. And like, you know, like that, I view it as my job to build the infrastructure so that we can outcompete those people.
No, I love it. Which, by the way, Rob, you just triggered me about something that I haven't thought about, was even on my list of questions, but I kind of know Brian a little bit at LayerZero, which I saw an announcement about LayerZero and the IBC transfer layer for all that. I haven't heard much about it since the announcement that LayerZero was going to be the transfer layer of IBC. Are you a part of that, or like integrating that?
I mean, that's cool. It's exciting. I'm glad for the LayerZero team. It'll be cool to see them get that deployed.
But so the reason why I said that is because my understanding from reading their white paper was that includes CX liquidity, that they will be able to kind of shift around across multi-chains. And I'm like, that sounds very interesting if it's a way to be able to do that. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't want to put words in the
We already, I mean, I'll be honest with you. We already built that into IBC. Crypto.com is using it to offer Polkadot support. Like, cool, great. I'm, you know, I think that what that shows is that broadly throughout the industry, there is an understanding that these sort of cross-chain standards that we've been building are the way forward. And that if we can sort of rally behind one set of these as an industry, we can do it. But basically, the part of IBC that they're adopting is the wire formats.
Right.
Like how the data travels over the wire. And what they're proposing is a different wire system, basically. And like, it's cool. Like, it's an interesting protocol. It puts a lot more trust and responsibility in the relayer network, which is, I don't know. I would prefer to trust these on-chain light clients. And like, I think that this, you know, we can get into the trade-offs between those things. It's arcane. But, you know, this is like UDP versus TCP. And like this sort of like underlying transport layer war. I've been working on TCP, i.e. IBC, for a long time. Like, is there a use case for UDP? Like, i.e. fire and forget and much like lower reliability and lower security guarantees, yeah, totally exists. I look forward to seeing them out there in the market competing for it and seeing if it can take market share. But as long as they use these IBC application layer semantics, it's going to be really, really easy to build those applications because it's basically just like swapping out the transport layer. Are you using Unix sockets, or are you going to use, some custom transfer protocol?
Sure.
Doesn't matter.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll be curious to see how that plays out. I just remember reading that article and being like, oh, that's kind of wild.
They got a huge investment from Binance.
Yeah, I heard that too. Someone's dog's going nuts. Oh man.
My puppo, she's very excited. I think my wife just got home.
Nice. All right, so we got a couple minutes left here. I don't want to go too nuts. Usually I'd ask for question, guys. I'm sorry, we're running out of time. My questions come before the the group. So I want to kind of leave with this here. There's a lot of people that have tried the Interchain for the first time. There's a lot of people that are trying to onboard, that are trying to learn, trying to be a part of this. What advice would you give to people that are like, hey, I haven't tried it yet, or I'm just getting in, I don't really understand it? Like, obviously community is huge here and people have stepped forward. How do you do that? What's the best way to do that? What advice would you give people that are trying to get involved?
Yeah, go to Osmosis. No, down. Sorry.
No, dog.
Doggo.
That works.
Go to Osmosis and make a trade.
Yeah.
That's like, yeah, get yourself a Kepler wallet, go to Osmosis.
Oh.
I muted myself.
Buy
some atoms on your favorite centralized exchange, move them to the Atom chain, and then go to Osmosis. Give it a try.
It just kind of there, yeah.
It's a great onboarding tool, and for a long time my friends were asking me this, that like I went to college with, or I went to high school with, or like I know like socially here, and I didn't have anywhere to point them, and now I can send them a couple Osmo and say, go check this thing out, and it's really cool. So that's what I would advise people to do. Go check it out. Great software, fun to use, easy to use.
Yeah, no, very, very good. Very good, guys. People are asking about questions. Look, I like to be respectful of people's because I like it when they're respectful of mine. So I was told Jack has a 4 Central Time stop, 2 your time. So,
well, Jared, how about we come back and do a Q&A?
Yeah, please. That'd be great. Cool. Coordinate just like we did this one. Get you on the schedule here in the next, little bit.
Sounds awesome. Great. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, Jack, I appreciate it, Jack. Sincerely, this has been awesome. I can tell from the chat, people really enjoyed the discussion and a lot more to get into. So thank you. And everybody say thanks to Jack.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for having me on, Jared. Thank you, Robert.
Appreciate it, guys. Yeah, cheers.
Catch you guys soon.
See you soon.